Zoom recording. So the only way to opt out of recording is to opt out of this. So please don't do that. We'd be ashamed. We truly miss you. The next thing I'm going to do is, because we're expecting a lot of folks today, there are 80 people registered, we're going to place everybody on mute. Those of you who've been assigned as co-hosts, our presenters today, you'll have the opportunity, as you know, to unmute yourself. For the rest of us, what we'll be doing is we'll primarily be using the chat room for communications. Presenters today might ask for you to use one of the reactions, like raise your hand or one of the other ones. So we'll do that on occasion. We might call on an individual, and then I'll set it up to unmute yourself. So here goes the big mute button. And there we go. So let's get started. My name is Mark Bowers. I am the founder and executive director of the Professional Development Consortium of Hampton Roads. PDCHR, or the consortium, or call it what you will, we are a nonprofit organization built to provide education and training for folks who lead membership associations. So, for example, here in our community, professional societies like the leadership of the PMI Hampton Roads, civic leagues, homeowners associations, fraternal orders, college alumni chapters, basically any organization around town that gathers around a common interest or a common practice. We're here to fill a gap in leadership and education training that's designed for membership associations that doesn't really not offered anywhere else around here. Our offerings are affordable and intimate, and by affordable I mean free for the vast majority. There's like one or two things a year we'll charge a couple nickels for, just to keep our lights on. And intimate is we try and make sure that everything is interactive. This is actually one of the largest meetings or one of the largest sessions we've held, and in part that's pretty cool. It's a good chance to expand our boundaries and make sure we can continue having an intimate conversation. Today is also an experiment for the consortium. We have planned for a couple years to put on, to add to our repertoire seminars like this. So instead of our normal workshops, which are smaller format or roundtables or stuff like that, this is a little bit bigger. We do it in conjunction with one of the professional societies that we partner with, as an opportunity to share that professional societies practices and skills, in this case, like project management 101, if you will, with other association leaders, to see how those tools and techniques and tips could be applied to the art of management and the art of leadership. So as part of this, and also to honor PMI-HR's the time of the membership, we're also doing this jointly as a business meeting. So for those of you who are members of PMI-HR, or fans of PMI Hampton Roads, and have been to their dinner meetings or their online meetings, you'll know there's a business part and then presentation parts and some other parts to it. So we'll see a little bit of that as well. So again, thanks. I'll be monitoring the chat box, and keep listening for opportunities to participate. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Mark Reedy, President of Project Management Institute of Hampton Roads, and he'll conduct the little bit of a business portion for PMI, and then he'll get us rolling into the actual presentations. So off we go. Mark, it's all yours.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Great first name, by the way. This is great. I'm really excited about today because I've known about PDC of Hampton Roads, not to be confused with the PDC that I'm going to talk about a little later, Professional Development Conference. But this PDC is a great partnership. I'm so glad that Mark reached out to us. I hope to do this again in the future. I just think we can help each other with, support each other. There's no reason not to. Both really great professional organizations. So this is a great opportunity we got some great speakers coming up. I'll intro here in a second. And I just want to welcome everybody this is our, as Mark brought up, this constitutes our August chapter meeting. I know it's July 31st, but this is our very abbreviated chapter meeting that we're required to do each month. But we're in preparation for PDC, the Professional Development Conference, which I'll mention here in a second, in September. So we're in full planning mode for that. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and we're just going to go through a couple slides. Let's see. So everyone should be, let me take a second. So give me a thumbs up, Mark. We good?
We're good.
Okay, awesome. So we are PMI Hampton Roads, for those of you who may not be members. We've got we reach out all the way to the west, past Williamsburg, not quite towards Richmond. They've got their own chapter, but everything on the obviously the south side, and then part of the peninsula. All right. So PMI Global News. The big thing going on right now is this affiliate program. This is new. We actually were chosen as a pilot, one of the pilot chapters. And now they're starting to expand it out into other chapters. But we were able to get some of our chapter members and, well, chapter leaders, I should say, on our board. We're able to take some of these courses. I took 3 of the 5 that you see up there. And there's more coming, and there's more available on the PMI Global site. But you can get, if you go to our site, PMI-HR.org, you can get reduced pricing on these. These are not free. There is one free one, the PMI Kickoff. It's 1 hour. I think it's a really good course for if you are getting ready to take your PMP or took it. It's a really kind of succinct course that kind of encapsulates the PMBOK, and I thought it was really good. That one is free. The others do cost some money. I haven't taken the Wicked Problem Solving yet because I think it's like 12 or 13 hours to get through it. But I heard it's really good, and I've taken some of the other ones there. That Sense and Respond was excellent, really good. Team Topologies, that one is it's more software development oriented, but take a look at those. Go to our website, and again, what happens with this affiliate program for our chapter, or for all the chapters that it's not required. We volunteer to partner with PMI Global to promote their products. When you go pay for their products, our chapter receives a percentage of whatever you're paying in. So that money comes right back to us, which then goes back out to our membership. So it's a win-win for PMI Global. It's a win-win for our members, and it's a win-win for our chapter. So the good thing about it, you got lots of opportunities for PDUs. They're really pushing these micro certifications now. And we actually have some folks that they're, obviously not, you don't have to go to the degree for PMP certification. It's not that lengthy. So you get these micro certs that you can put on your resume or on LinkedIn. You also get these electronic badges. The minute you finish, you complete it, you get this badge that goes to LinkedIn. You can put that up there. And again, the courses are really well put together. So I just wanted to throw it out there. This is new, and I think it's really good for everyone in PMI Global. So chapter news. So if you've attended some of the past meetings, you know that there's what used to be PMI-EF, Project Management Institute Educational Foundation. They've basically used to keep chapter money in endowments, and then they used to basically be responsible for distributing scholarship money to scholarship winners for the chapters. Well, all that money came back, or is coming back, to the chapters. So we can now take that money and use it for scholarships. We can give it to other nonprofits. We have we have leeway as to what we can do with that money. So we are going to keep this Ramsey Gamble Scholarship. That'll be in January. We're working on other potential scholarships. And if you got ideas, or things that you think we want to donate to, please, you can send me an email on thoughts that we're going to have those discussions in the fall once we receive this money. The guest pass program. So a lot of the chapters lost membership last year due to COVID. And so PMI Global, they always give chapters, they reimburse chapters $500 a year to give out free passes to join the chapter. So this year they ramped it up to $1,500. I want to spend every single dollar of that. So if you know folks that are part of PMI Global but not part of the PMI-HR chapter, let them know they can join for free right now. Just reach out to VP membership at PMI-HR.org. Ryan, if you could put that in the chat, and she will get you free membership to our chapter for the year. PDUs, one thing I wanted to bring back is part of the value of being a member is you don't need to record your PDUs. We'll record them for you. So just we'll take care of that. If you do have an issue, we had a couple glitches here and there, just send Ryan Haig, VP Communications, an email and he'll get that fixed for you. Live events, we had 2 successful live events. We did one at Cova Brewing. We had 50 people. We actually had to stop. Unfortunately, we could only at the time. That's all they would allow us to gather. But we had a great showing there, and we did a Tides baseball game, which we had a lot of fun at that. So we're going to start doing more live events. Our first in-person chapter meeting is going to be October at the Weston. That's where we normally have it. And then once we get back into a routine, we'll probably bounce back between the South Side and the Peninsula. That's what we try to start doing before COVID hit, so that we don't forget about our Peninsula side members. And yes, I know the question is, will you continue to do virtual? Yes, we will mix that in there as well, or do a hybrid. PDC, I've got a slide for, one second. Oh, there's our board of directors. So you can put a face to a name. I can't say enough about this board. I'm just so fortunate to have everyone you see there, and then all the directors. There's Kathy, our VP of Volunteers, has basically doubled our board in terms of the directors that fall underneath the VPs here. And I just couldn't have asked for a better board. Just everyone's extremely professional. That guy in the middle there, Ryan Haig, he's the only short pole in the tent because he went to Michigan, and we know about Michigan education. No, we give each other a lot of crap. So I'm a Buckeye. My son's a Buckeye, so I have to always give Ryan a little bit of jazz. But I just want to thank my board. A lot of preparation for meetings, and then this professional development conference I'm about to talk about. I can't tell you the number of hours that goes into this event. So with that being said, please save this date, September 17th. It's coming up pretty quickly. This is going to be a hybrid. We are really pushing, hey, go. You're going to get a lot more out of it, I think, if you go live. It's going to be at the Virginia Beach Convention Center. And we're doing something really cool. You pay a little extra for the leadership. In the leadership track, you get to go to iFly and fly in a wind tunnel with a good friend of mine, Bob Pizzini, who's the owner of iFly. He's a Navy vet. He's going to give about a 1-hour presentation on leadership, and then you're going to go learn about teamwork and leadership inside the wind tunnel. I'm thinking about, I'd like to do that. So, but it costs a little bit extra. But then at the end of the day, Bob and maybe whoever we decide is the leader of that group going to come back and tell us what you learned. But I got to participate in this with Bob a while back. And it's going to be a great event. I think we have up to 24 seats available to go over the iFly. So you're going to come in. We'll do a morning keynote. The folks that are going to iFly will break away, go over there for a leadership track, and then come back in the afternoon. And everyone else will go through the various tracks. We got all 3 points of the triangle there, and we got great speakers. I look forward to this, and so please sign up. And I think with the recorded events, you're going to be able to go back. So during the day, you can only attend so many, obviously, but you'll be able to go back and watch the other tracks. And I think there's upwards of 11 or 13 PDUs. So lots of PDUs to be gotten, plus networking at the end. and get to meet a lot of great people, great leaders. There are going to be lots of vendor table set up. So I encourage you to try to make that. All right. Thanks to our sponsor, Marathon, and Brian Hickman. Marathon gets the sole spot here. They've been our a loyal sponsor for many years. If you are with a company that would, we're looking for sponsors. We have a great VP of marketing right now, and we put together some marketing sponsor material. And so we are looking for sponsors. So if you know a company that would like to sponsor us, we need them. So, but thank you, Brian, and thank you, Marathon Consulting. At the end, we are going to raffle off some gift cards like we normally do. And please follow us on social media. I know I saw Tanika's on there. She's done a tremendous job getting us up to speed in the year 2021 on social media. We were getting there, but she really got us over the top. So please follow us, and please, when she posts, please share those posts and like those posts, and get the word out there so we can get more and more folks to our events, and which is again going to provide great value. All right, that's all I had. It's short and sweet. We got 3 speakers coming up: Jerry Hagdorn, Ryan Haig, and John McLaughlin, and I'll kind of introduce them one at a time. The first one is Jerry Hagdorn, great American, who's on our board. He's a director of military liaison. He's a veteran, and he's got a long title to his presentation. I'm going to read it: Why veteran project managers should be on your leadership team, and why you should look for them. So Jerry, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to give you a chance to introduce yourself. And again, thank you, Jerry, for all the hard work. He's really been tremendous in supporting, and Tim White, who's on here too, supporting the veterans, the military in this area, which there's lots of them. And I just want to thank Jerry for all the hours that he's put in, volunteer hours, to support our veterans and our transitioning military. So Jerry, over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Mark. Good morning, all. One more plug on the military liaison piece. If you're looking for an opportunity to volunteer in the community, whether military, whether operations, whether any aspect of anything having to do with project management, I highly encourage all of you to look into participating with PMI-Hampton Roads. It's a great organization to enrich yourself and give back. So having said that plug, good morning. My name is Jerry Hagdorn. I am the military liaison for Hampton Roads chapter of PMI, as Mark said. And my job is to help veterans and active duty military who are transitioning to be veterans to get the most out of project management and how it can help them and the community at large for their next step in their career. So having give that spiel, let me share my screen and we will start today's presentation. All right, can I get a little audio feedback if the main presentation is on the screen?
Singing beauty.
Fantastic. All right. All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody to today's presentation, the really long title of Why Veteran Project Managers Should Be on Your Leadership Team and Why You Should Look for Them. So I served in the military for 30 years, and when I joined the civilian workforce and obtained my project management certification, I quickly realized that most of the leadership and management skills that I had learned while I was in uniform aligned with project management and with organizational leadership for the civilian sector. So I want to share what I've learned with you in order to help you make your organizations better in a way that you might not have previously thought of. Now, before we begin, everybody, I want to remind you, please keep your mics muted. Today's presentation is being recorded. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat, and then time permitting, we'll either get you the answers here or in a follow-up email. So let's get started. So today I'm going to share some data, some perspective, and hopefully answer that what's in it for me question that you're likely asking yourself. So to do that, we're going to talk about the following things. First, I'm going to put everyone on the same page so that we're all starting from a place of common understanding. Second, if you are responsible for providing direction to your organization, then understanding aspects of organizational leadership is important. And I'm going to touch on some common attributes Your mileage may vary. Third, while you may have been in your industry for a significant time, it is possible that maybe you don't have a clear understanding of what it is that a project manager actually does. I'm going to give you a fundamental explanation for what it is that a project manager does. Fourth, I'm going to reinforce your understanding of what it is that a project manager should be capable of so that you can have a better understanding of how a project manager can add value to your team. Fifth, we're going to switch over to some veteran talk about how they have foundational skills that can apply to your work. And we'll touch on traits that most veterans have that you want to help in leading your organization. Sixth, we'll talk about how veterans possess additional knowledge, skills, and abilities, or KSAs, that add value not just to their role as a project manager, but also adds value to the project team, and that adds benefits to the organization as a whole. And then lastly, we'll get to the payoff. So we're going to tie it all in together to show how what it is that you're looking for can be found in a veteran project manager. So let's dive in and get a closer look at these points. So to start off with, I want to provide that clarification that I just spoke of in order to remove any potential confusion. Now, when I say veteran project managers, I'm not referring to project managers who have merely run projects successfully for their organizations. I'm talking about effective project managers who are also a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces. Now, that's kind of a unique blend, and that might prove hard to find. But if you can locate individuals within your organization with that powerful combination, it can add significant value to your leadership team. To appreciate how a veteran project manager can add value to your organization's leadership team, we first have to clearly recognize what organizational leadership is. So as a definition, organizational leadership is a management approach in which leaders help set strategic goals for the organization while motivating individuals in the group to successfully carry out the assignments in service to the goals. So simply put, it's the tactic that you use to lead your business. Now, there are 5 key components I want to touch on for organizational leadership. First, there's understanding of your own worldview and the worldview of others to see how people see things around them. Second, there's the ability to capitalize on the strengths and manage around the weakness of your teams, to include yourself as a leader. Third, there's an ethical framework for decision making, because without ethics, none of this matters. Fourth, there's effective communications, and there's lots of ways to do that. And then lastly, the 5th key component of organizational leadership is leadership by way of honesty, follow through, fairness, and respect. Now, you may have terms thrown around in your organization like functional manager, senior executive, or organizational leader. And while these titles may be casually used interchangeably, the things that set an organizational leader apart from the rest are that they're people-oriented, they drive change, they have big picture understanding, and they understand the steps to make change happen. So now that we've covered the attributes of an organizational leader, let's take a closer look at project managers. So in order to define the role of a project manager, I first want to touch on what a project is. A project is an endeavor. It's got 2 defining characteristics. First, it is temporary, so it's got a distinct beginning and end. Second, a project produces a unique product, service, or result. So projects exist to provide business value and to deliver benefits to an organization. Don't confuse a project with operations. Operations are your organization's routine, recurring business. So let's consider the car industry as an example. Building the automobile factory would be a project. And when that factory is built, the project's done. Whereas the routine assembly of cars within that factory's production line would be operations. So now in the middle of your screen is the project management triangle, sometimes called the triple constraint or even the iron triangle. These are the limitations faced by each and every project that, if not properly managed, become obstacles to achieving project goals. Time at the top of the triangle refers to the project's schedule for completion. Cost on the bottom left refers to the financial constraint of a project. You might hear it referred to as the budget. And then lastly, scope refers to all of the tasks necessary to achieve the project's goals. These three constraints have to be in balance with respect to one another in order for the project to succeed. Now, off to the right side of your screen, you can see what happens if you significantly change a project's plan without some kind of mitigation. Project managers are the ones who maintain the balance. A project manager maintains that balance by employing a robust set of people and communication skills, by using a broad and flexible toolkit of techniques, by working well under pressure with a cool, calm, collected head, by being comfortable in dealing with change and complexity in dynamic environments. And lastly, project managers accomplish this by their capacity to shift readily between the big picture and small but crucial details, and knowing when to concentrate on each. So now that we know what a project is, and now that we know what the challenges are to achieving project goals, we can broadly define a project manager as a professional who applies their knowledge, their skills, and their tools and techniques to complete the scope of work for a project on time and on budget. Project managers deliver quality in the form of meeting all of the project's requirements. So just like projects have requirements, project managers themselves have requirements too. And it's those requirements that you should be interested in. The basic framework for working on projects stems from the Project Management Institute's community-based standards, and that framework gets validated by PMI's exam for the Project Management Professional Certification, or the PMP certification. So on your screen are the PMP exam's two largest domains and their respective tasks. The people domain makes up 42% of the test, and the process domain makes up 50%. Now, quite clearly, these two domains are the lion's share of what a new project manager should know and for which they should have minimum experience. Now, all certified project management professionals have demonstrated the minimum experience necessary to obtain certification. And when we start considering veterans in this field of work, the nature of military culture means veterans are likely to have significantly more experience working in the domains, tasks, and enablers from the 2021 PMP exam, or the process groups, the knowledge areas, and the processes for those of us that might have taken the older exam. Now, we all know that passing any certification exam is just the minimum. It's like getting your driver's license. You're allowed to drive on the road, but you don't necessarily have a ton of experience driving in, let's say, rush hour traffic or rainy conditions. Well, just like the traffic and rain to that new driver, there are environmental factors that can impact a project manager's performance. Factors like industry environment, a challenging goal for the project, a wide spectrum of personalities on the project team. Now, factors such as these, and many more, are elements that factor into whether or not the project manager will succeed or fail. And the thing that gives veteran project managers a leg up on their competition is that not only have they likely experienced the majority of the items that are on your screen, they have likely performed them successfully before ever even joining the civilian workforce. All right, so back in December of 2020, Indeed.com published an updated list of employability skills that hiring managers look for. And those are the skills that are shown on your screen. Now, this list wasn't new or some sort of revelation, but the skills on that list align with what veterans bring to the table. Veterans are taught those skills and many more from day one of their service. Now, what this means to you as a leader in your organization is that you can have a high degree of confidence that if a veteran were to move into a leadership role in your organization, that they'd be able to leverage those skills for you sooner and more effectively than, let's say, an average civilian counterpart. Beyond the primary dimension of employability skills that we just discussed, veterans have a secondary dimension in the form of additional knowledge, skills, and abilities, or KSAs. Now, when your organization wrote the position description for the project manager role that you needed filled, of course, your hiring manager described the role, they outlined the responsibilities, and they itemized the minimum skills or qualifications that candidates should have to work best on your team. And then every good candidate tried their best to align their resume with that position description. Now, when that applicant was a veteran, odds are that they brought additional traits, additional desirable traits that benefited your project team, whether or not those additional traits showed up on the resume. I'm not talking about those overused general terms that so many crap applicants use to pad a resume. I mean, how often have you seen a resume with terms like motivated, passionate, and focused? Those are empty descriptors that don't add value to your project team. But what about a project manager who is, let's say, procedurally minded? Would you want a project manager who knows firsthand the value of teamwork and team building? Would you be interested in a PM experienced in resolving conflict between members of their unit? How about a project manager who has the experience of receiving trust and responsibility and then repaying that trust with consistent trustworthiness from a younger age than their civilian counterparts? Do traits like these add value to your team? I'll bet they do. So when your employee is a veteran, that's what you're getting. So the value added. Here's the payoff. The answer of the what's in it for me question that I mentioned at the top of the presentation. An individual project manager or an individual veteran can each bring value to your organization, and each can individually add value to your leadership team. The intersection of project management and service to our country in a singular employee means that that individual is doubly versed in the hard and soft skills that can help take your organization to the next level. If you have in your organization an effective project manager who is also a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, then you should consider taking advantage of their unique background for your leadership team. So, veteran project managers can be invaluable to your organization's leadership team for how they line up with the demands of organizational leadership, for how they work to achieve project success, and the assortment of knowledge, skills, and abilities that they bring from their time in uniform. Both project management and leadership born of military service underscore that having the right people is vital to success. What I'd like for you to remember is that if your organization is lucky enough to have an effective project manager who is also a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, then you've got someone who realizes the value of people and who has the experience to lead them. You have someone who can add significant value to your organizational leadership team. All right, so there's my spiel. Are there any questions? Whether in chat or audio. Mark, how am I doing on time?
Jerry, we've you nailed it. We do have like 4 or 5 minutes here for questions. So as Jerry mentioned, go ahead and drop them in the chat box, or if your keyboard's too far away, you know, well, actually, it's not going to help anyways. You go ahead and you can also raise your hand, you know, through the little reactions button on the bottom of your Zoom screen. It is nice. There's a couple thank yous there already. You got at least one outstanding and one awesome so far. I like Pablo's comment about veterans already have the skills, just need the certification. Does a good job of selling membership right there.
I hope so. I hope it adds value.
Right. Sure does. I mean, just personal experience for me, there was a pretty substantial gap between the end of my military service and then joining PMI. It was interesting, you know, kind of going through that and saying, wow, I actually know some of this stuff. Not enough to declare myself a successful project manager without going through the certification, you know, more significant study that goes up to that to formalize that approach. John threw in a question here asking if you could go maybe a little bit deeper about, or you know, just tying 2 points together, why vets should join PMI, other than the pitch I just gave.
From where I sit, I think the value added by joining PMI is exposure to additional events and processes that can add value to your resume and your toolbox. Just like we say, get a certification so that you can get smart on processes to help you and your employer to make yourself more marketable. There are additional events and resources that are available only through PMI that can also add additional value to you and your marketability and your effectiveness for the industry in which you work. You don't technically have to join PMI to get the certification, but I would argue it's kind of like, you get your license for a car, but you don't bother to get the insurance. The insurance offers you additional peace of mind and additional coverage. Likewise, joining PMI gives you additional peace of mind and coverage by making sure that you have access to more resources to be the best you that you can be. God, I think I just gave an Army commercial. I also see in chat that there's one from Nicholas. Should veterans include those additional knowledge, skills, and abilities in our resumes? And will they be recognized by potential employers? I would say that's, Nicholas, that's kind of a touchy one. I would say yes, if they're applicable to the position and to the organization and to the industry at large, okay? Part of what I wanted to highlight today is that regardless of the organization or industry, broadly speaking, the average civilian applicant versus a veteran is going to bring more to the table. Now, not all of it will be directly applicable to the position, to the organization, or to the industry, but it can add value. It can add value in other instances. If it's applicable for the resume and it makes sense, then yes, I would include it. I see a question from Sandy. How hard is it for military vets to cover the justification for certification and add 1 week PM course already completed? How hard is it for military vets to cover the justification for certification? I would say that the justification for certification is put forth by the demands of the industry. Just like many job positions say, we want somebody with these skills and, let's say, for example, a minimum of a bachelor's degree. That's kind of a filter. Anybody without the bachelor's degree, they won't consider seriously unless there's some kind of unique situation. I would say likewise, there are a lot of positions that have standards put forth in the form of must have this certification or experience in this field. I would say that is justification for getting a certification, whether it's a short certification or something significantly longer. I see a question from Pablo. Hey, Pablo, just accepted into the MBA program. Congratulations with William and Mary. Should I also obtain a PMP certification? Well, Pablo, I say yes. Because if absolutely nothing else, whether it's a formal requirement on the application or not, it lets the employer know that you have, one, you hold the certification. So that means you had the dedication and drive to get it. You understand the lingo and the terminology and the mindset of the industry. And while not every organization will require an MBA or any other kind of additional requirement, I will tell you that a PMP certification is accepted worldwide, regardless of industry. So that and other similar project management certifications can help you whether you're working in, let's say, construction or IT or bakery management. I don't know. It's something you can take yourself to be more marketable in a broader selection of industries. And I see a comment from Ryan, more government programs requiring PMP or equivalent for project managers. True. I see, Jerry, did you mention O2O? Thank you, Mark. All right, so I'll give a quick plug for O2O. For anyone who's active duty or a veteran, Onward to Opportunity, or O2O, is a program that is sponsored by Syracuse University and the founder of Starbucks, I believe, for transitioning active duty and veterans to get training for assortment of certifications, whether it's IT, whether it's project management, what have you, and they're going to pay for your certification. So if you have the choice between paying something out of your pocket or using other people's money, Onward to Opportunity is willing to be that pocketbook of other people's money to pay for your certification. So I highly encourage you to look into Onward to Opportunity, or you can reach out to me directly, and we'll do what we can to help get you started on a path to certification. So.
All right, that's great. Thank you very much, Jerry. I think you also did a fine job of clearing all the questions in the chat box. I just wanted to throw in one personal observation about the PMP certification in contrast to other programs and stuff like that. In my previous life as a hiring manager, certifications that require continuing education always struck me as more valuable than those that were kind of a one and done thing. Not to put down anything from William and Mary, but generally speaking, if it's a lasting certification that says you have to keep going back and maintain your education, to me, that meant an awful lot as a hiring manager. So with that, though, I'd like to turn this back over to Mark Reedy, and you can introduce us to Ryan and get us rolling on the next chunk, if you would.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mark. Thank you, Jerry. Excellent presentation. Appreciate it. So yeah, despite his poor education from the team up north, the U of M, we don't say that word in our house. I'd like to introduce our VP of Communications, Ryan Haig. He's seriously, we give each other a lot of crap, but he's a Navy. He's still in the Navy, actually, active duty, transitioning here soon, and great. He's a great addition to our board. Just done a tremendous job with his job as VP of Communications. So Ryan, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself a little bit, and look forward to your presentation.
All right. Can I get a thumbs up? Everyone can hear me okay? Excellent. All right. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about effective communications. As you can probably guess from Mark's intro, people call me all sorts of names, many of which are inappropriate to repeat here. But for this presentation, I'm going to go with Ryan Haig as my title. You're all pretty busy professionals, so I need to get through a couple of real quick obligatory slides, and then we're going to sink our teeth into the meat of this material. But if you're a vegetarian, I have to be inclusive, so you can sink your teeth into whatever meat substitute product that you happen to enjoy. Now, this is one of those obligatory slides. As Mark did indicate, I am currently serving in the United States Navy, but nothing I say represents the Department of Navy or defense policy. Now, considering how often those things change, what I say may actually appear to be prophetic or heretical, depending on your viewpoint. I also serve on the board for Project Management Institute, Hampton Roads chapter, and I do have access to the Project Management Book of Knowledge, 7th edition, which was just recently released. But again, nothing I say represent PMI's explicit views. Also, I have lots of pictures in this presentation. They are all pictures that I have either taken or they have come from the internet on a free license, so you can't steal them unless I give you permission. All right, another obligatory slide because you have to say what you're going to talk about, right? So we're going to talk about all of these things here. Don't worry, I'm going to wrap it all up at the end with some short descriptions, so that way you won't forget it. There's also going to be a quiz specifically for that person that has their camera turned off and is browsing Reddit right now. So at this point, you're probably saying, why should I listen to this quirky yet devilishly handsome man that is presenting to me right now? What possible credentials does he have to merit talking to me? Because I am in fact a professional and I have no idea who this person is. So I'm going to spell that out for you real quick to dissuade everyone's fears that they have. I actually served in the Navy for 17 years now. And during that time, I've worked on a variety of different projects, from small reorganizations to a few $1 million in building renovations. I've actually built a lot of stuff on my own, to include an 18-foot tall pirate ship in my backyard. That's the picture of me with my kids standing over it there. And I've also done a lot of IT projects for small business customers. I am certified as a PMP, and I also have a number of Ubiquity network certifications. And so in short, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of bad project management, and I've gotten my hands dirty in a variety of projects, some of which came off great, some of which required an awful lot of work on my part to get back on track. So I can tell you from personal experience what works and what doesn't. And I can also tell you what works based on science, doctrine, and my own experience in the areas of communication. So we're going to do just that. Buckle up for a good fun ride. So first, though, we have to talk about what effective communications is, because like so many things in life, there isn't one agreed upon definition for effective communications. We know when it does and doesn't happen though. And so for example, if you've ever pulled into a restaurant that was advertising great food and you might have been let down by that experience, you will remember that failure of effective communications. Now, on the other hand, in the case on the right, I did in fact pay $125 and I did in fact shoot napalm. And fun fact, you can do almost anything in Kentucky if you have enough money. So that sign on there, as simple as it is, effectively communicated my future really awesome experience. Now, in the business environment, effective communications happens when the information that we are trying to convey comes across perfectly to a stakeholder. Now, that requires a couple of things. First, it requires us to communicate information that a stakeholder wants. Second, it requires us to communicate in a way that makes sense to a stakeholder. And third, it requires us to communicate information at the time a stakeholder wants it. Now, we got to give some examples because that's a whole bunch of stuff I just threw out there, right? Let's take the burger example there. If we're picking a restaurant, we probably want to know whether the food tastes any good, what the ambiance is, and about how much it's going to cost us. If we get this information from a review website like Yelp, and it's accurate, then that site effectively communicated to us by providing accurate information we cared about before we made our restaurant decision. So let's use a counterexample. Have you ever asked someone where a place is and you wanted them to just give you an address, right? So that you could punch it into your phone. And instead you get somebody that starts to describe how to drive there. I know that I have interrupted people before saying, I don't need driving directions. I just need the address because I'm going to plug it into Google and that's how I'm going to get to there, right? There's a breakdown there of communication. The way that somebody is communicating, in this case to me with driving directions, right, is not the way that I wanted to receive that. And so because of that, I just stopped listening. And that happens all the time. Now let's use another counterexample. Have you ever been in a 5-minute stand-up that didn't go for 5 minutes and went for more like an hour? And everyone was supposed to give a short update, but instead they went and droned on and on about their work, right? I have sat through many of those before thinking, I don't care about what you did on your job. I don't care about what you ate for breakfast. I just want to get this update and I need to move on. That's a prime example of not communicating what a stakeholder wants to hear. You're giving them information that they don't need, and you think you're communicating, but in reality, it's just going in one ear and out the other. Now, for the last piece in terms of communicating on the right timeline, right? Let's go back to the burger example. If after you ate at this crappy restaurant, right, and you got a burger that looks as horrible as that guy's on the screen, right? And then you go and you tell a friend about your horrible experience, and they say, oh yeah, that place is trash. I don't understand why you would have eaten there in the first place, right? You're probably thinking at that point, that would have been really good to know yesterday, right? You might also want to pick better friends. But that's another example of the timeline, right? That information is worthless to you at that point because you've already had a bad experience at the burger joint. So now that we know what the key pieces are of effective communication, we need to understand that effective communication requires planning. So let's talk about that. Effective communications are planned, especially for big projects or big organizations. If you don't lay out a communication plan, you're soon going to be playing a game of whack-a-mole, where you're going to be constantly putting out small fires that distract you from your big goals. The quote on the slide is directly from the PMBOK 7th edition. Does the text that I put in bold sound familiar to you? I've been part of a lot of organizations that just sort of wing it when it comes to communications plan. All too often I hear, we don't have time for that, or we're so small, we don't need that, or we're a nonprofit, that thing is for businesses. So let me spell it out for you crystal clear. If you've got more than 3 people in an organization, you need a communication plan, all right? Otherwise, you're going to wind up with peach nihi. So that wonderful bottle of soda badness over there, it came about because I was planning a surprise birthday party for my wife, and I had quite a few neighbors that were pitching in to help. And I asked one of the neighbors to bring some soda over without really giving him any details, right? I just said, oh, go bring a couple 2 liters of soda, right? He asked me if he wanted me to approve his soda choice, which I thought was really weird. And I was like, nah, it'll be fine. It wasn't fine. I did not realize that he did not touch anything that had caffeine in it. And so all the soda that was brought was non-caffeinated, to include the peach nihi, which I didn't even know was a thing. And eventually that bottle had to get poured out in the flowers because nobody with any taste buds would drink it. So if you're part of an organization and you feel like you're bouncing from meeting to meeting and you can never get ahead on emails, it's probably because you lack a good communication plan. So now let's talk about the pieces that make up a good communication plan. All right. So back in the day, I was the aide to a British admiral. Yes, that is in fact a thing you can do in the US Navy. It's kind of fun. And he was stationed over here, and I helped to plan a trip for him and his family to visit a SEAL demonstration on the Dam Neck base. Since my admiral was the senior person attending, he wanted me to make sure that everything was prepared. And I would have done that in a British voice, but I'm a horrible voice actor. So, and preparations include having a designated seating area, right? So the event owner, I called the guy and he said, I've got an appropriate seat for the admiral. You're totally good. His family, they're going to have a great time. Everything was great, right? But when we arrived, the admiral got an unshaded portion of a bleacher on a hot day in Virginia Beach. He was not pleased, let me tell you. However, the SEALs did in fact give his 2 daughters some pretty good photo ops. That's one of them on the screen there. So I at least had that going for me, and the family had a good time. And I only suffered a little bit when we got back to the office. Now, the point of that story is, while you might have a plan, it doesn't survive first contact with real life. Now, the more important thing is, in the process of planning, you're going to be much better prepared to deal with the surprises that come up. So what I'm going to cover on this slide is the sort of questions that you need to ask when you're building your communication plan, rather than trying to give you this like step-by-step guide that's really rigid that you have to follow for every comms plan. So the first thing you're going to do when you make a communication plan is you have to ask who needs information. Now, PMI used to call this stakeholder identification, and I haven't flipped all the way through the PMBOK 7 yet to see whether they still call it that. Now, some of your stakeholders are pretty obvious, like your customers, if you're building a product for a customer, the managers that are inside of your organization, those are pretty obvious stakeholders. They're people that obviously need information. Other stakeholders aren't so obvious. For example, most organizations post on social media blindly without thinking about the sorts of people that follow them on social media. Now, your social media posts can reach a lot of people, and they can actually serve as a channel to communicate with certain stakeholders. But that actually requires you to take those posts seriously and to track their effectiveness. Community members are another great example of a stakeholder that gets left off all the time. People think, oh, the community that we're going to be building this project in, what do they really care, right? But long term, that community can make or break you. So for example, if your local city government supports you, that can be a huge boon for your organization when you're building a project. And if they don't support you, that can mean that you have a whole lot of roadblocks that suddenly pop up and that your project might not last very long. Now, after you've started to do stakeholder analysis, right, or stakeholder identification, you need to start identifying what sorts of information that a stakeholder needs. An easy way to start this process is to simply ask the stakeholder, hey, what information do you want? That's a pretty good start. But you need to think a little bit harder about what a stakeholder is going to do with the information. If you give them information, for example, is it a feel-good update so that they like your brand? Is the information going to lead to a donor donating more money to your organization? Are you trying to keep them around? Like you've got a retention issue that you want to try to solve by giving more information out. And also, fun fact, stakeholders often don't know what they want until they get it. Now, if that reminds you of a quote from the Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart about knowing something when you see it, then you win the trivia cookie for today. And you need to remember that when you apply that thinking to identifying stakeholder information needs. Now, the next piece on the list seems a little bit brash, but you should ask it. Sometimes it is dangerous to share information. If you're a business, you could reveal things about your competition or reveal things about your business that your competition is going to use to outcompete you. If you're a nonprofit, you might inadvertently offend a donor or a community of interest. Information should always be shared with a purpose. And if you can't find a reason to share that information, you should consider not sharing it at all. Now, once you've decided that you're going to give a stakeholder information, how do you do it? And that's going to really depend on what the stakeholder is going to do with that information. You could distill everything into a blog or social media post if you expect someone to reshare that information. By putting it already in the format to make it easily reshareable, it makes it easy for that person to go ahead and reshare it. Let's say that the stakeholder, though, wants to update a database, right? Maybe in that case, you want a weekly or a monthly Excel sheet because it's easy to import into the database. Let's say they're going to use the information to update their boss. Well, maybe you ghostwrite the email for them, right? You ask them, hey, what sort of email did you send your boss last time? And they send you a sample, right? And so then you can take your information and put it in that format. So that way it makes it easier for them to share it with their boss, right? So the point here, though, is that the information doesn't necessarily change, but every stakeholder is going to have a right way that they want to get the information. And that is based on what they intend to do with it. So it makes sense in your communication plan to understand that and then to communicate in that same channel to make it easier for them to use the information that you've provided it. Now, when and how? That is a fun question. Every boss that has told me, oh, just update me whenever it's convenient for you, has always wanted an update whenever it isn't convenient for me. The problem here is that providing information takes time away from your primary tasks. Stakeholders don't understand this. To them, a request for information is free. Fun fact, information requests are never free, ever. I don't care. Even if it takes you 5 minutes, that's 5 minutes you're not working on a project, okay? So for example, if you're a business, it takes time to provide a free quote, right? For a customer that might not purchase anything. You can take all this time to do an analysis and provide a free quote, and guess what? They can go, thanks, and then nothing. And that hour that you took to put a quote together, wasted. Part of the power of creating a communication plan is to get your stakeholders to agree to timelines so that you minimize or eliminate, if you're really good, those ad hoc requests for information that stakeholders think are free, but that's actually really hurting your progress towards other objectives. And I'm sure that there's more than a few people that have spent most of their week providing updates about the progress that they're making rather than providing progress that they could then update somebody later on. Now, the last question, who has this information that a stakeholder needs? That sounds like it's really simple, right? Like, oh yeah, I know the person that has this info. It might actually not be, because if your stakeholder wants an in-depth report, right, there might be a number of different information holders that are out there that have all those different pieces. And the collaboration to put that full report together for a stakeholder will take a whole bunch of time. And especially if you don't have direct control over those people, let's say you're in a hybrid team setup, right? Then you'll have the problem of trying to get a bunch of people that you can't tell them what to do to stick with the timeline to put this report together to satisfy your stakeholders' information needs. Now, the way that you deal with that is, again, having that communication plan. You take that communication plan to them or to their boss if necessary and say, look, this is when I have to provide this to a stakeholder. I need your help to provide it on this sort of timeline. And it's a lot easier to take a no kidding written plan to them and show them, rather than saying that in an email or even having just a face-to-face discussion. Now, all these steps sound a little bit complicated, right? But in reality, especially for small organizations, it doesn't have to be. So let's take a look at an example of what this might look like. Now, I put this fake communications plan together in about 5 minutes. Now, many of you are going to be sitting there thinking, so what? I can put lots of fake things together in 5 minutes. And you might as well have just written lorem ipsum on here too. Before you come back at me with all that wit and banter that you have, think about this for a minute, right? This plan on the screen took 5 minutes to build. And yet it is more than what most organizations have for a communication plan because they have nothing. So you could theoretically take this plan that's on the screen, you could spend 20 minutes editing it, and you could actually have a halfway decent communication plan for a small organization. Now, if you took 20 minutes to edit this and it cut down on your ad hoc requests by about an hour a week, which when you think about it, wouldn't be too hard to do, right? That is increasing your time by 150-fold. That's Tesla stock or AMC theater level of gains here, okay? So the point here is real simple. Communication plans can be really, really simple. They do not need to be some crazy, crazy setup that, you know, inhabits 35 columns in Excel and spans for thousands of rows, etc. They can be very simple. Don't overthink it. Now, in order to overthink something, let's talk about communication channels. So when I say communication channels, I'm describing the how behind communicating. In your communications plan, you're going to list the stakeholders and what information they need, but the channel is going to describe how you communicate to them. Now, we inherently know that some methods of communication are more effective than others. Alistair Cockburn, who is one of the earliest agile architects, talks about the richness of a communication channel. And the richness is affected by the number of information cues a channel can process, how rapidly it facilitates feedback, how personal it is, and how much it utilizes natural language. Speaking of utilizing natural language, I had to take a drink there. So no surprise here, face-to-face beats video teleconferencing, which beats phone and which beats email. Now, as richness increases, the ability to deliver the information correctly the first time increases too. And we all know this inherently, right? If you're face-to-face with somebody on a whiteboard, you can convey everything and there's feedback and all that stuff is happening, right? And you'll probably walk out of that meeting with a really good understanding the first time around of the information. However, as richness increases, the cost of delivery also increases. A face-to-face meeting, as described before, is fantastic. It allows easy two-way dialogue, but that dialogue comes at a cost of preparation time, meeting time, someone to take notes, and a whole lot of follow-up. And there's no way to have a face-to-face meeting with every stakeholder. If you're on any size of a project, that's just not going to happen. And it also doesn't need to. Some stakeholders just need a small bit of information to be happy. What you're going to find when you make a communications plan is that many of the stakeholders need the same thing. So maybe you put all of them on the same email distro. Maybe you make a regular social media video with all of this information and share it with them. By doing this, you're going to satisfy the stakeholder needs, and then you can get back to working on your project, because that's the whole point here. You don't want those ad hoc communication requests. You need to get back to doing project work, and this is a way to solve that. Now, if you have some geographically distant stakeholders, you are probably just not going to have face-to-face opportunities. And technology can do some of that for you via video teleconferencing, but with distant stakeholders, you're probably going to have to increase the frequency at which you communicate to them in order to make sure that you communicate effectively. Now, when you have this communication plan, it's going to let you push back on these ad hoc requests, and it's going to do it in two ways. First, when you communicate ahead of time when people are going to receive updates, It reduces the natural tension that many people have about being left out of the loop. So if I tell you that you're going to get an email with a status update on Thursday at 1 p.m., you're probably not going to bother me until about 1:30 p.m. if I forget to send the email to you. The other way that having a communication plan helps reduce these ad hoc requests is when you get somebody that wants to add one more meeting. That good idea fairy that everyone hates, right? That comes in and says, hey, we need to add another meeting for this, right? Those people tend to forget that every meeting has a cost. Everything has a cost to it, okay? Even if it's just in terms of times and not, in terms of time and not dollars, it has a cost. So when the good idea fairy walks in the room and says, we should have a new meeting about this, right? In order to communicate more effectively, you take your communication plan out and say, okay, where does it fit in our plan? Now, what it does by doing that is you force people to think about a meeting cost. It doesn't mean you can't change the plan. Now, you could, in fact, change how you communicate, and you can change that communication plan. That's okay. Plans are supposed to change with time, but the change should always be deliberate. You have to think through the why behind your communication. And the more that you do that, the more you can reduce these ad hoc good idea fairies, right? And you can get back to focusing on what meetings are going to be effective, and you'll make those meetings more effective. Now, effective communication isn't just transmitting information. It's also about receiving and being able to provide feedback. So let's talk about that. Now, in my opinion, my good looks, charisma, and the ability to sing karaoke significantly improve with increasing levels of blood alcohol content. However, I have received an awful lot of feedback from my friends that puts a little bit of a damper on that assessment. Receiving feedback, and more importantly, acting on that feedback, is critical to growing as a professional. If you show me somebody that doesn't take feedback well, I'm willing to bet that that person's professional growth is pretty stunted. Now, military members are used to receiving feedback. Well, maybe. If you've been in the military, you've probably been yelled at for screwing something up. That is a form of feedback, and sometimes it's effective. If your ship is about to run into something, yelling at someone to change course can prevent a collision. But look at the quote on the screen there from the PMBOK 7. Most feedback situations are not life or death. We mostly deal with people's bad habits, quirks, and poor business practices. These things need to be corrected, but yelling at someone is unlikely to change that. That's where the military struggles. If you've ever read a military fitness report or evaluation, you'll realize that most of them are fluff. Everyone in the military is an upstanding citizen doing what is right and accomplishing all that they set out to do. And we all know that that isn't true. People make mistakes. They fail on projects. Things don't come out as expected. And yet that isn't captured on these reports. Worse still, when I talk to military members, most of them never get any sort of weekly or monthly feedback from their bosses. The assumption is if nothing is broken, then no feedback is needed. Now, I'm picking on the military because that's what I know. But when I take a look at other businesses, I see the same thing. For example, my brother-in-law, he used to work at Garmin, and I got a chance to visit his facility. He worked in the air area for like small planes navigation. After I took a visit, I asked him how Garmin grades employees and what sort of feedback he perhaps gets from HR. And it looked an awful lot like the military. If nothing's broken, life is good. And again, I'm not picking on Garmin because I'm willing to bet that that sort of attitude holds true in many other places. Now, the lack of feedback causes a lot of follow-on problems. Lawrence J. Peter once observed that employees are often promoted to their maximum level of incompetence. This happens because the skills that an employee needs to do well at one job aren't necessarily the ones that are needed for the next job. This principle, called the Peter principle, is cited an awful lot and is actually held up to academic and scientific testing in organizations of various sizes. Now, what isn't talked about is that Lawrence, in the same book that he wrote, he talked about a way to overcome this through what's called a pull system that identifies management potential and uses mentors to groom people to later take on larger roles in a company. Thus, we need a really good feedback model to develop our people. And I found a good one via a podcast that I listened to. Now, I'm not sponsored by these people, and their podcast is free, so you don't have to pay anything to get it. Manager-tools.org is a great place to go for a free podcast. Now, if somebody here is listening, well, I want to be a leader, not a manager, just cut that bad boy out and just go to the website. Go take a look at it. It's actually run by 2 former Army officers, and it's really, really good. I'm not going to waste too much time talking about how the fascination of otherwise competent individuals on the difference between management and leadership has kind of dragged down our profession. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you think management is a lowly version of leadership, you might want to go check this podcast out. You might be surprised at what sort of things you'll discover. But anyway, the feedback model for Manager Tools is outstanding. I have personally used it an awful lot, and I found that it is the best way to get an organization to shift to a pull system, and it's the best way to counter the Peter principle that I have seen over a variety of different organizations. So let's use an example. Let's say you have somebody that they've got something that's holding them back, a bad habit, let's say at work. Here's how you provide feedback. First, you're going to ask them, hey, can I give you some feedback? You ask because it might not be the right time. Maybe they're about to go into a meeting. Maybe they're focused on something else. The point is you ask to ensure that you have their attention. And thinking about our previous definition of effective communication, you're trying to give them information in a format and time that will inspire change. If they aren't ready to receive it, then that's good to know before you try to deliver feedback. Now, assuming they say yes, you then spell it out for them. When you do X, this happens. So let's say that they are late with a weekly update email. You could say, when you send your weekly input late, it makes me have to stay late at work to finish my update to the boss. Try to remove emotion out of it. Don't say it makes me angry. Fun fact, nobody cares about your anger. People get angry all the time. And if you need proof of that, go on Twitter. Making someone angry, you can argue with that, but someone having to stay late to provide an update is a poor use of company time. Nobody can argue with that. And that's why it's effective to be able to put that in there. Now, the last thing in the feedback is you say, can you do this differently? Most people are going to say yes. They get it. You've delivered good feedback to them. They understand where they did wrong, and they're going to walk off and change that behavior. Now, occasionally someone's going to protest and give you some lame excuse, but now you can have a discussion with them about that excuse and work together to find a way to fix it. Now, also, this feedback model is really good for positive feedback too. So for example, if you talk to someone and say, hey, can I give you some feedback? And they say yes. And then you say, when you follow up with customers, it really helps us secure future contracts. Thank you for doing that. That's really effective feedback. And that person's going to walk away going, man, my boss really cares. That's really awesome, right? And again, you're showing the behavior that you want to reinforce for later. Now let's wrap this up like a cheap Taco Bell burrito. First, we talked about effective communications, and we established that it happens when you communicate information to a stakeholder that the stakeholder wants at the time desired and in a way that makes sense to the stakeholder. We established that planning communications is important because it minimizes ad hoc requests for information that are a distraction from real work. We looked at the science behind communication channels to reveal how some channels are more rich than other channels. And finally, we discussed feedback and a model to provide it effectively to people in your organization. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention. And I'm going to hand it back over to Mr. Bowers if we've got enough time for questions.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks. That's really good stuff. Stuff being a wonderful term for communications. I don't see a ton of questions popped up. There was a little question about the website for the podcast. We'll sort that out and make sure that it's at the right address. We'll send it out afterwards. But with that, we do have a couple minutes. So if somebody has a another question or an observation, go ahead and please throw that in the chat box. Ryan and I are staring at it, waiting for your input on there. But I'll tell you, there's just one thing. It was really interesting, the chart that compared the communication channels that were written in early 2000, I can't remember what it was, like 2005 or something like that, versus what PMBOK has. It's there's a really cool compare and contrast there about the types of tools. Videotaping is probably not a big thing today, but yet that same message is there. Like, the more interactive you can be in a timely fashion, it's still, yep, same thing, more expensive, but more effective. So really good balance point raised there, I think. Anybody thoughts?
I'm sure the manager-tools website is now getting an awful lot of hits from people checking it out.
All right, well, as everybody, as I say, everybody knows, except I didn't mention it, we will have a follow-up email. It's scheduled to go, I believe, on Wednesday, thanking all of you who attended, as well, including some resources and some cleanup and some other neat stuff for you. If you do have any questions that pop in mind between now and then, just go ahead and send them to me. You got tons of my email address all over the place, no doubt. And we'll make sure that they get farmed out to the right person to follow up with you. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Mark Reedy to move us along and hook us up with John McGlothian. So all yours, Mark.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Hey, Ryan, great presentation. That was excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Our next and last, but not least, presenter is John McGlothian. He's a graduate of West Point, and he finished up his career in the 3rd Ranger Battalion. He's Bronze Star winner, which is a big deal. And he's got an MBA from the real U of M, University of Memphis, not the other U of M that we just heard from. He won the Kurt Christoph Award for being Outstanding MBA Student of the Year. He's a PMP certified, Agile certified practitioner and certified management accountant, and he's got a green belt. He also won Distinguished Young Alumnus while at the U of M, and is very involved with the Boy Scouts, winner of the Silver Beaver Award to recognize registered scouters of exceptional character who provided distinguished service within the council. Also won the District Award of Merit and NASA Outstanding Eagle Scout Award. He's got experience, obviously, as a Army officer, Fortune 500 company executive, and entrepreneur, and he's also a community leader. Without further ado, and if I missed something, I apologize, John, but I'll turn it over to you and look forward to your presentation. Over to you, sir.
Hey, Mark, I appreciate it. Hey, Mark Bowers, sound check. Do sound videos good? Okay, awesome.
Delightful.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely
Awesome.
delightful.
Hey, Mark R, just in full disclosure, I was born in Detroit, so University of Michigan. I'm all there for it. Sorry, brother, on that piece. Hey, okay, so first of all, I kind of do this for a living, and ever since COVID, it just went on steroids in the sense that I do a lot of video training and things of that nature, you know, as far away as Afghanistan to Hawaii and so forth. But I am not I'm not a talking head. I need audience participation. And one of the best ways that I've seen is if you can turn on your video, so at least I know who I'm actually talking to. Yeah, that would be awesome. Now, if your backdrop is a little bit challenging, you know, I get that. But you know what? We got the chat, and we also have the reactions on those pieces. So I would, you know, greatly appreciate it. That would be just awesome for me personally on that side. Again, because this is really all about you, on the material. So I want to make sure that kind of delivering what you know kind of expect in those areas. Okay, so with that. So my presentation is how effective PMs benefit association and nonprofits. You know, that is awesome in and of itself. And one of the reasons why I asked Mark R to give a little bit more thoughts about that was because I always like to set the example. Okay, so I kind of used myself as the example on that piece. Because you never want to ask people to do something that you haven't or that you are not willing to do. Sometimes it's just not appropriate, but you know, but you really, really want people to emulate and to follow whatever it is that you're trying to do. So that's one reason. I am extremely passionate about developing project managers. I am so passionate about it that I created a whole business in order to do that. So that is what I do, is trying to develop project managers. Individually, organizationally, primarily in the military, because this is where I live, Virginia Beach, okay, in those areas. And I live vicariously through my students. I live vicariously through my organizations. Back here, kind of unscripted, but when people get ready for a PMP exam or for their professional projects, because kind of do both, they, I track them all the way through. Okay, and we become very, very good friends thereafter. So, for me, this is it's kind of like a calling. I'm just very fortunate that I'm able to make a living off of it. Yeah, and not many people can say that they can actually do their passion. Okay, so I get real passionate about it. When Mark Bowers asked me to do this presentation, he gave me a time limit. Which is awesome. But you know what, man? I can go 120 hours. I can go that whole time. Without taking a breath. But so that just tells you hopefully how passionate I am. I am also extremely passionate about community service. And what people are doing here is awesome. Mark, great job on it. Now, project management services. The way I'm going to attack this is, first off, results, because that's what we're after, is bottom line results. What can we do? Now, the journey is important. So, we got that conundrum going on. But really, at the end of the day, what did you do? Then I'm going to talk a little bit about project management tools, kind of the nuts and bolts. Keep in mind, have this is time boxed, on those pieces, and then just do a quick summary. Does that sound fair and reasonable for everybody? Give me okay. Does that sound good? Okay, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, just a little bit. When I was at the, I graduated, I did my, master's, degrees and all that kind of stuff with the University of Memphis over in Tennessee. That's where I lived before I moved here. After that, I was fortunate enough to be a part of the alumni board. Okay. And when I was a part of the alumni board, I became president of that board. We grew membership by about 300%. Okay. Now, I had to admit that my executive board, we had to do a weaning process to rebuild the executive board and then regroup the membership on there. Okay. So, phenomenal growth. Alumni annual business lunch. We used to do, when we first started, we used to do this annual business lunch. It was like 25 people, pay $10. It's kind of like one of those. Okay. And eventually what we did was we grew it to over 250 people, to where it was one of the signature business events in the community. And we had community leaders to come there. And eventually we just sold out. It was awesome. And what that led to was the Kimmons Wilson School of Hospitality and Resort. I would love to take credit for all of it. Obviously not. It was a group of people, united in order to deliver close to $15 million so that they could start up that school. Go and visit our website. It's awesome. If you're in Memphis, and you can actually stay there, just as a matter of fact. Clearly, I do a lot with Boy Scouts. I consider myself an accidental leader, in that regards. But you know what? Hey, when I was Cub Scout master, Cub master, we started off with some 40 youth. We grew it to about 85, 90 youth in a fairly short amount of time. I think it was about 2 years. Okay. And then we also started another program called Scout Reach, where we're bringing scouting to underserved communities. Okay. Which involves raising money, wood badge leadership training, convincing adults, about 50 of them, or 30, 50, in order to spend weekends camping outside, so for the betterment of their youth, and then of course fundraising. And then should kind of go without saying that I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and in that organization we do a tremendous amount of social good within the community. One of the areas that I was mostly directly a part of was the holiday gift baskets. When we started that, it was about, let's just say 2030 or something like that. And it was all across Hampton Roads. COVID hit. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Well, we restructured it. We hit 2 schools, 50 turkey baskets, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay. Now, I am not saying that to say that, John, you did an awesome job and all that. No. What I am saying is that it was because of the ability to deliver projects is what led to those pieces. That is what it was. You know, and whole idea. So earlier, when we're talking about veterans and so forth and what they bring to the table, and then the outstanding presentation on communications, it's all of those tools which leads to those great, what I think are great results. Do we want to do better? Yes, absolutely. No questions about it. Now, if you, much like me, okay, are quite busy and so forth, and you got two basically types of volunteers, okay? You have the volunteers that can actually be there week after week after week. And you know what? They are awesome in the operational type role, okay? Operations versus project. But you know what? You may have a set of volunteers that are equally committed and are wanting to drive things home, but they can't do it week after week. But you know what? They can show up for you for that Christmas or for that fundraiser or for that October special event. But you as the leader have to allow them to do such and give them the tools to do such. One thing that we have not really touched upon is the charter. But let's just say the charter allows you to give the authorization in order to expend organizational resources onto their particular project. But from you as a leader, the part that I want to leave you with is that you're giving them their left and right boundaries. What is it that you really want them to accomplish? Because this allows them to focus and to deliver the results that you need within your organization. Does that resonate on that side? I mean, yeah, okay, good. Okay, so now what we have coming up next, because we're just kind of laying the groundwork here. Again, Mark kind of time boxed me here. I'm sorry, brother, but you know, on that piece, on that area. But you know, we're under a little bit of time, and it's no issue at all. But what I like to do is a little bit of interaction here. Okay. And what I want to do, because I believe in audience participation. Wow, I also like taking risks, don't I? I like to know who out there wants to make a lot of money for themselves. Who out there? Who out there? Okay, Ryan, you got this. You got this, Ryan. All right, Ryan, you are a rich realtor. Okay, can you see my screen? Whoops, let me move the chat out of the way. There
Yep,
we go.
I see it.
Okay, awesome. Ryan, you are the rich realtor. Now, Ryan, you make a ton of money. I mean, you bring it in. You close a house every week, $10,000 every week. You trained Zig Ziglar. If you don't know who Zig Ziglar is, you know, because we got some millennials in here, okay, and Gen Zs. Zig Ziglar trained the sales folks. Well, you know what? Ryan trained Zig Ziglar. That is how good you are. Now let's test some math here. Do you want the 10,000 before tax or after tax?
If I'm that good, I'm not paying taxes.
Oh, rock on. Let's just go for that. Hey, Ryan, you have a home. I'm putting you in play. You have a home. Okay. I'm putting you in play. You want to build a deck on the back of that house. Okay. Mr. $10,000 a week man who pays no taxes legitimately. Okay, we'll just add that in as a caveat because we don't want the IRS to be monitoring coming in. But nevertheless, you do it legitimately. What size of a deck would you like to have?
Let's say it's a 20 by 20.
All right, 20 by 20. That's fine. What kind of amenities do you want, Mr. $10,000 a week man?
I mean, let's put a hot tub on there and let's make it an enclosed screen deck.
Okay.
Because in Chesapeake, I mean, there's mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, enclosed screen deck. You want a kitchen too?
Sure, why not?
Okay, awesome. Now that's the best I can do on spelling, so we're gonna hang right there. Okay. Let's assume that let's say right now we're coming up on essentially Labor Day. Let's assume that you want this built by Christmas.
Sure.
Okay, so you want I can definitely spell Christmas. Now, okay, so you want a 20 by 20 done by Christmas. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Now, hold fast, Ryan. Question for the group. Who out there likes to build things? Dan likes to build. Okay. Dan, you are our builder. Okay. Now, Dan, you are an honest builder. Okay. And don't overthink this. Don't overthink this. Okay. All right. Hey, Dan, you got a 20 by customer comes up to you, got a 20, he wants a 20 by 20 deck with all the amenities there. And he wants it done by Christmas. What's a ballpark estimate?
There we go. All right. Well, this is for Ryan, and he's pulling some big dough. So, I got to go. We're talking at least 20 grand.
Okay, but you are an honest builder.
Okay, I'll go 18.
Yeah, you are an honest builder. So, hey, what we got here is the scope, the time, and the cost. Okay. Some people, may want to look at it as resources. Okay. On that side. Okay. But, just for now, cost. Okay. On that side. Now, Ryan, you said that you wanted this 20 by 20 by Christmas, but you discover that your aunt-in-law, okay, so your wife's aunt, spouse's aunt, is going to visit you. And going to visit you, well, let's just say Columbus Day, October. Okay. So instead, it is now Columbus Day. In other words, your time has shifted. Dan, being the experienced project manager, what must happen? Either yeah, exactly, Yuri. Either the cost must go up or the scope must, there we go, must go down. Okay. So either cost up and or scope down. Now, sometimes people want to kind of get into this issue of, the customer is never going to see that. And I say, this is just project management 101. The customer may not see that, and that is awesome. Okay, that's customer service, or that was a business decision. But what I asked the organization to do is to understand something has changed. You have made the decision to absorb that change, but something has changed. What does that imply for the nonprofits? Oh, if you gave this individual a charter, left and right boundaries, and asked them to deliver something, okay, and then you add to it, either it's going to take more time for them, or they may need additional resources. Or let's say that the resources are taken away, then one of the other two must change, okay, on those pieces, or it's going to have to be absorbed. I just mentioned this because when you are managing your volunteers, when you are leading your volunteers, you have to be cognizant of what you're asking and making sure that it is pointed in the right direction. Does that resonate with the power of the triple constraint? Does that resonate? Okay, good. All right, so let's say that we finally get over this hurdle and we want to drive this in even a little bit further. Let's talk about the WBS, work breakdown structure. Can someone type that into the chat for me? Work breakdown structure. Yeah, WBS. Okay. How many people here have been given a task and they just didn't really have a real good idea of where to start? Has anybody ever had that experience? Yeah. Hey, I tell you what, if you're going to be a project manager, one of the things I tell individuals to do, hopefully you can handle ambiguity, being out there on the edge. Pepto-Bismol and aspirin is great, but the longer that you're in this game, the more challenges are going to be given to you. And sometimes you just don't really have a good idea of how to start. Now, that's one of the powers of having a PMP, because in my mind, don't take this to the nth degree, you should be able to at least get started on just about any project. And then with your team, be able to drive it home, okay, on those sides. So, now this is just a John thing, meaning this is just me. If I run into an event and I have, or any tasking, it doesn't really matter, okay? It can be R&D, it can be event, it can be building in an austere environment, IT. The very first thing I do is pre-event, event, post-event. And you know what? If I am helping one of my volunteers to kind of get their arms wrapped around it, I find that doing it in a picture format helps them out immensely. Because what you want to do is give them a picture so that they can take it forward. Okay, so they can take it forward. But you want them to help build it so that they have ownership within it. Okay, so just one of those keys of trying to manage volunteers, and the volunteers have good hearts, but they may or may not be experts in that area. So you got to give them some tools to allow them to get their arms wrapped around it. So it doesn't really matter what the widget is or what the event is. More than likely, there's going to be a pre-event, event, post-event. Hey, Mark Bowers. Just for the sake of time and so forth, okay? Normally what I do is, I ask somebody to like do the Super Bowl or something like that, okay? But and we haven't practiced this, and this is perfectly fine, okay? We've done, we've done this forward and backwards. But let's just use this event, and let's build the skeleton of a work breakdown structure just for illustration purposes. Are you with me?
I'm with you.
Okay, awesome. All right, so, Mark is going to host this event, which is real, so we're not making anything up, okay? But he may not know exactly what to do on those pieces. Now he does. Now we are making that up, okay? So what I would suggest is, hey, event, pre-event, event, post-event. On just about any post-event, there are going to be two things that are going to happen. One is lessons learned. Hey, for our military folks out there, we're in Virginia Beach, go Army, beat Navy. Okay, it's tough being an Army guy in a Navy town. What we would just call that is just AAR, after action review, hot wash, whatever. Okay, in PMI world, we call it lessons learned. Why? Because this is not going to be the first time that this event is going to happen. It's going to go over and over and over. So, hey, Mark, after this event, are you going to have a lessons learned?
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. The other piece is paying your bills. Okay. And this just kind of goes back to the old vernacular. Hey, if the money is right, you are good, more than likely. Can't say that 100%. But, if all the bills have been settled, usually everything is good. So we know those two things right off the bat. Does that sound fair and reasonable?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Now let's jump up to begin with the end in mind. Okay. Because that's where we want, a successful closeout on this work. You may add in some other pieces, as your heart desires. Pre-event. What are some things, and what we're looking for here, Mark, are nouns. We're looking for deliverables. Okay. What are some nouns or deliverables that have to be thought of in a pre-event or the event? Let's just see where your heart goes.
Learning objectives.
Okay, establish learning objectives. Well, that's
a verb.
Yeah, that's learning objectives. So we'll just use learning objectives. All right. What's another?
Target audience.
Okay. ID, target audience. Are we really trying to say what's the theme?
Sure.
Okay. So let's back this up and let's just say theme. And as part of the theme, you got to have the learning objectives, the target audience. Okay. INCE, you're challenging me on my spelling, but that's all right. Hey, what about that venue? Do we have to figure out the venue?
Generally not a thing Zoom wise.
But Zoom is a venue. You could have used MS Teams. You could have used free conference.
Okay, we can pretend I have a choice in the matter. Sure.
Well, you do have a choice now. You could have done a video call too. Okay. So, you can just say IT video, venue, whatever that is. You have to make those decision points. What else?
Schedule.
Okay, schedule. Okay. Anything else?
And I would probably say presentation team.
Okay. Presentation teams. All right. All right. And then for the event, what would you say what are some deliverables for the event?
So it's
Don't overthink this. You're thinking too much of yourself, my friend.
interactivity.
Okay. So that's a characteristic. That's a quality characteristic. But obviously,
So the quality of the event.
okay.
If you just go with that, that's cool.
Okay. Quality expectations. Okay. You actually want the event to occur. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
The agenda.
Okay. Oh, part of the event is going to be the agenda.
Right.
Adherence to the agenda. Okay. So schedule, when we say schedule up here, that is also going to be the event agenda plus the planning schedule. Okay. All right, good. This is probably good enough for spacing and so forth. Okay, in that regards. So what we're doing here is a work breakdown structure. Sometimes you can use I'm trying to use these fancy PMI terms, okay? Group creativity technique is the actual umbrella term to which you may use brainstorming and then go into affinity chart or infinity diagram. But the point of the idea is that what you're doing is that you are creating a list of objectives that you need or deliverables that you need to achieve as you're going through it. And what this allows you to do, what allows you to allow your volunteer to do is to kind of structure and have a checklist of the items that need to be done because they help to build it. Okay. They have ownership within it on those areas. You could do this in PowerPoint. You could do this on pen and paper. You know what? A whiteboard is also great. Okay. The reason why I use, PowerPoint is obviously because of the mechanism here, but also it happens to create like a little neat outline. The outline should match exactly what's on the drawing or graphical representation on those sides. So one of the takeaways I want you as the nonprofit or the association leader to just think about is the next time that you have an event, consider doing a work breakdown structure. Just consider that, okay? See what happens with your volunteers as far as getting them circled around the common objective so that they can deliver whatever it is you are trying to get them to deliver. Does that sound fair and reasonable for everybody? Does that? Okay. Last thing I want to talk about, project management tool-wise, is risk. Okay, risk. Now, this is my attitude towards risk. Risk planning is probably one of the most essential pieces. Why? Because you can go through all the steps, all the processes, and somehow not feel very comfortable with that plan. In fact, you may know that that plan will not work. Okay. But if you sit down and do a good risk plan, figure out what could go wrong, build up a contingency or workaround, what are you going to do? You're going to back up into a pretty solid plan. Okay. So I would encourage you, again, as leaders within your organization, to always just sit back and say, hey, what can go wrong? We're pretty good at all the things that can go wrong. But you know what? It can go right. Okay. Because some things can go right, and have plans for both sides. The tool that I used to use or usually use is the outdoor wedding. Okay. And just to put you into play, let's just assume that my wife's nephew, so I'm not emotionally attached to this, but my wife is, so therefore I am. Okay. He, the young Marine, decides to have a wedding in Nashville in the month of April. And I don't know why he did or they did, he and his lovely bride, but they decided to have it outdoors. Okay. What are some of the risks that can occur? Now I put it up in the chat. Put it up in the chat so I can get some feedback here. Oh, yeah, yeah. Rain. What's another one? Oh, wolf attack. Hey, you know what, Julie? If they say, put that up there, I would just go ahead and put it up there. Okay. Yeah, on those pieces. In this neck of the woods, there weren't too many wolves. Bad weather. Yeah. Tornado, wind. Okay. So all the usual suspects that can occur. Again, I wouldn't debate on what's a risk or what's not a risk. I would just put it up there. Okay. Then go back to your team and just do a risk analysis. One of the typical ones is 1 to 5. In other words, what are the odds of something occurring, the probability? And if it did occur, what is the impact? April, outdoor wedding, Nashville, Tennessee. What are the odds of rain? 1 being the lowest or 5 being the highest? Throw some stuff up in the chat there. 1 to 5. Give me a number. Okay, we got a 4. I got a 4. Okay, so let's just say 4. If it were to rain, what is the impact? Oh, 5, 5. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Wolf attack. What's the probability of a wolf attack? Yeah. Sorry, Julie. It's pretty low. It was pretty low on that side. But you know what? If there really was a wolf attack, what's the impact? There we go. 5. Okay, cool. All right. So let's hold it there just for in the interest of time and so forth. You can kind of go through that. If the, you know what? Hey, you can have lots of a risk, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. You do the probability and impact. Why? In order to rank order one, because now is the time when you actually determine which ones you're going to spend the most amount of time thinking about. Okay. Clearly, rain, I'm going to spend more time worrying about that than probably wolf attack, for example. Just for the sake of time again, okay, there are typically 4 plus 1 ways that you can deal with threats. Okay, you can, and I use the mnemonic TAME, TAME. You can transfer the risk, financial obligation, buy an insurance policy. You can accept the risk. Hey, if it rains, I'm good. If it doesn't, whatever. Now, here's the problem with accepting. Me, with all the hair I got, rain is not an issue. On the other hand, my wife, beautiful lady, okay, gorgeous, okay, on there. She's not in the same room, but absolutely, she has lots of hair. For her, rain, that's not acceptable, okay? I mention that because some stakeholders, they're willing to accept the risk, others not. So it is relevant back to that particular stakeholder. Then you can mitigate. And then I say escape, which is essentially avoid. Okay, I just use it as a surrogate for avoid. Okay, in other words, like someone mentioned earlier, just have the wedding indoors. Okay, just avoid this whole mess. The fifth one, just to round out, in accordance with text and everything, is escalate the risk on that side. Does that risk analysis on a very 1,000-foot level, does that resonate with folks? Does that? Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and wrap this up and pull it all together. First thing, use your projects to engage your stakeholders, your volunteers. They're busy, okay? You got 2 types. The ones who can do it day in and day out. That's awesome. Others, maybe not so much, but you can channel their energy and deliver awesome results. 2, understand the power of the triple constraints and what that means for your organization. 3, use the work breakdown structure to help organize your results. And then 4, I encourage you to do risk analysis, risk management. It doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be complicated. You can have a little fun with it. But at the end of the day, you need to have some kind of a workaround plan, some kind of a contingency in case things go really, really bad or really, really good. Okay, so you got both sides of the pendulum. Mark, I hopefully try to hit my time hacks there. Of course, we're trying to encapsulate all these pieces. I hope everybody enjoyed it, but I am going to turn it back over to you.
All right, John, thanks. Really cool stuff. I took more notes than I was planning, so nice job. Even the part where you called me in as a unwilling, I mean, a very willing volunteer. It was kind of cool and actually pretty insightful. So totally awesome presentation. Just to echo what Julie dropped in the chat box. So what we'll do is, if just like before, if you do have any questions that come to mind after this, go ahead, just send them to me, farm them over to John or whomever for resolution, and you'll catch that in the follow-up Wednesday. So what I'd like to do is, so we got two little things to do, and I'll bring us right up on the hour. So I think we're doing a good job of being honest with your time, or being respectful of your time. We can turn this over to, I believe, Ryan. Do you have something you want to spin for us, Ryan?
I do.
Right,
I have a wheel to spin.
All right, and after Ryan's done, then I'll just go ahead and wrap us up and send us on our way.
All right, so everyone should be able to see the wheel up on there. We're going to be spinning for a couple of prizes. Mark, Mark Reedy, what's our first prize to spin for today?
I think it was the target card. I have to go back and look at the slide. Yeah, this could, we got all the registrants on there, and there's just only 25 in the session. So try to find somebody in the session.
Yep. Yeah, the rule is you have to be here. You have to be present to win, right?
We got we've got the first one's $50 target card.
All right, so for a $50 target card, here we go. And all right, Gabriel Lamb. Gabriel Lamb, are you here?
You gotta be present to win.
Yep.
No Gabriel's here.
No Gabriel? All right. Remove. We're gonna spin again.
Need some music.
I don't have any cool music, unfortunately. Oh, all right. Zenobia Davis. And that might have got
also goes without, not here.
okay. Remove. Spinning again.
You're on. Guess everyone's sleeping.
All right. Isis Blackley.
Oh, you're just terrible at spinning this. You're never going to give it away at this rate.
I just keep removing people.
Right.
So at some point,
Might have to.
Jennifer Barone.
I actually know her. She's a friend of mine. She's not here.
Well, next time you talk to her, tell her what she lost.
I know.
Oh, dun dun dun. All right. The wheel's gonna get to the point where there's only like 4 names on it.
You're gonna have to tell us some of your good kids jokes.
Yeah. Anita Shervington.
Sadly, she was here but left early, and that's me snitching
Oh.
on her. Dang.
Man, nobody wants this Target gift card. Normally we'd have Jerry here going, saying in for.
Yeah.
And Joanna Helska.
Well, you probably know how this story ends.
Man, still going.
Okay, music.
I don't think we've ever had this many no-shows.
Yeah, holy crap. Kieran Sodden.
Yeah, one more no-show. How about the Michaels?
Was she here?
No.
Nope. All right. Wheel's gonna get real small.
So I know what I'll be editing in the video recording.
Yep. Ashley Bell.
Oh, what a shame. No. And I don't have kids. I can't tell kid jokes for you.
Ryan
Nope.
usually has a good couple.
Yeah,
of
no Ashley Bell.
Negative.
Man.
Right?
Sophie Zhang.
No, but here's another chance to eliminate somebody from the wheel.
I feel like I'm the Terminator. I'm just terminating people on the wheel. Oh, I know Candace is here, but Charmaine Trout.
You almost won, Candace. You almost won.
No Charmaine.
There are no trout left in this pond.
Man. Sri Raharjo.
Oh, you'd think so, but no, so no show.
Man, I could have drawn stuff out of a hat.
Yeah.
Sarah Ryan.
Oh, you're betting like 1,000 and then some.
Man. The text size on these guys keep getting bigger and bigger. At some point, it's going to be like size 64. What about Valerie Williams?
Great question. What about her? She's not here.
Man, you're batting zero, man.
Judy Collins.
Yay!
Oh, she's here.
Yay! Yes.
Yay. All right.
I mean, Judy,
That's-
you can call out for yourself. I just got so excited.
All right, Mark, what is our next prize?
We got another $50 target card.
All right, another $50 to target. See if we can give this one away faster. Spin wheel spin. How about Miriam Pacheco?
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're back to normal. No,
Oh,
Miriam's.
I don't want to be normal.
It's highly
Nope.
overrated.
Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary, right?
Mhm.
Ariel Lightfoot.
Yes, indeed, Ariel. Come on
Yay, there we go. Second
right.
time. All right, and then the last one, I think because we had three, right?
Yep, last one's a $100 Amazon card. I'll take it.
Oh man, $100 to Amazon. Oh, Julie Rowland.
now. Yay!
All right. All right. And that's it. Mark R, back over to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll just say, thank you to everyone. Thank you to John and Ryan, Jerry, great presentations. I know that was outstanding. Thanks for attending. I appreciate it. I'm going to pass it back over to Mark. And again, I just want to thank Mark for inviting us to join forces. And I think we do this again. I know Saturday morning's tough for a lot of folks, but appreciate everyone joining and hope you got as much out of it as I did. So back to you, Mark. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks so much. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I just dropped it. I'm going to put it in the chat box one more time. A link for a real quick survey. Just go ahead and click on it now. Leave it open on your browser. You know, this is our chance to get some insights, a little feedback, see what we can, you know, do even more better next time. And so with that, it is 11:59. If I shut up now, I give you the gift of time. So with that, we are done. So thank you all for attending. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, Yuri, from North Carolina, Yuri?
Yep. I think you went out.
I'll catch up with you.
Everybody can unmute
Oh, hey,
themselves.
Yuri, from North Carolina?
Yes.
Hey, how you doing, man? How's the world treating you?
Good. Good.
Oh,
Yeah, I
that's
did.
all-
I just saw
we're
your
in the
post, so
video.
I figured I'd join.
Oh, okay, we're pretty cool to see you. Hey, yeah, have a great one. Hey, I'll be down there next month, I think.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. Hey, have a great one. Bye-bye.
Yep.